Welcome to Daytime Auto. You know you're doing something right when your guest to kick off the show is actually humming the theme song of Daytime Auto, my friends. We have a great show for you. I'm going to dive right into our first segment because we've already been talking about it before the show, and that is food waste and what a poor job we are doing globally and, of course, here in Canada as well. Miriam Pearl is recipe developer and founder of Delicious Without Gluten. Welcome back. Great to have you here.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Food waste. So you sent this to me, and you're like, what do you think of this idea? I was like, yes, please, let's talk about it, because the statistics are outrageous, right? And how much waste that we have.
I sent you some stats.
You did.
I really feel like people just don't have any clue. And so I know people are not going to care that much about greenhouse emissions and, trying to save the planet. But I'm hoping that with some of these facts and some of the things that we can do today, will help people to sort of, get some of that waste out of there.
Yeah, and sometimes it has to be more personal for people to make a change, right? And by personal, we're talking about affordability, and prices of everything has gone up.
Everything has gone up, but like in my gluten-free world, everything is super more expensive than it normally is. And people love when there's a new product out. The first thing they do is they run to the store and they go, oh, I gotta try this new product.
Right.
And then they hate it. And then they just throw it out. It either too dry, too this, not what they expected, has an aftertaste, something.
Right.
And so in gluten-free world, you don't really want to waste that bread that you don't like.
No.
And you don't want to,
probably $8 or $9 a loaf, right? For some gluten-free bread.
Yes, and could even be higher.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
So depending on the specialty, if you're buying it fresh or you're buying it frozen in the freezer, and a lot of things go bad easily.
Yeah.
So we have to learn new ways how to save and how to recycle our food, and that's what I want to talk about today.
All right, so you sent me these facts. I'm going to share some of these facts with everybody at home just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So globally, 1.3 billion, that's billion tons, okay, of edible food wasted or lost every year. Canadians create over 50 million of that, 50 million tons of food waste every year, despite 60% of it being avoidable, right?
Completely.
And that's probably like the fruits and vegetables and things like that we probably buy too much of.
Bad planning,
and
a lot of waste. You were just mentioning Costco.
Yeah.
People go to Costco, there are 2 people in the family, they have tons of food. So what do? You go to the store, you buy a nice thing, it's on sale, and raspberries go bad really, really easily.
Really quickly,
if you see them going bad, cut away from them, put them in the freezer.
Yeah.
You can do that with bananas. You have so many bananas. I always have you peel the banana first, you mash it up, you put it into the fridge, find a recipe that has mashed bananas.
Well, that's a great idea doing that, because I think, that's again planning, right? Because if you put the whole banana in, we've all seen it, right? I've gone to family members' freezers, and you open it to grab a popsicle, and there's 8 bananas that have been there for probably a year and a half, right?
Peel them first. Put them in a plastic bag, and then away they go. And you do the same thing. You can take strawberries that are going bad, peel away from them, slice them, put them into the freezer, or just whole, stick them in the freezer first, and then gather them in plastic bags. I often have bags in my freezer of things that I waste.
Right.
Now this is at home. I do a lot of waste at work. So I've learned how to recycle at work, and then I bring it back home, which is what I want to share with your viewers, that when something is being cut away from, or you have an extra muffin or something, you can just put it in a bag and stick it all in the freezer, because in that moment you're really busy. You don't really want to stop what you're doing, and you're not going to take this amount of bread and put it in crumbs right away.
Right, yeah.
You're going to gather a whole bunch of stuff and put it in the freezer, and then when you're ready, that's when you're going to go and start, making different things, which I'll show you about.
Right. I love that idea, because, as you said, when you're busy in the moment, sometimes it goes in the garbage, right? Or it gets left out on the counter, it goes bad, and then, of course, the green bin idea, I think, is a brilliant idea. But we shouldn't be having to use it as often as people are using it.
We can give things away.
Yeah.
We can donate. We can certainly try to recycle what we can. Most of my stuff goes in a freezer. And then I deal with it when I deal with it. So if everybody could sort of learn how to, even if it's an apple and you want to cut up the apple, frozen apples, you make an apple pie one day.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to make, everyone's gathering their apples now, and then they have brought so many apples, and then all of a sudden they're going bad because they didn't have time that they planned for to make their apple cake.
Right.
And then all of a sudden they don't know what to do. We'll just cut them up and
make
freeze
it,
them.
as you said, a pie later,
Do it
an
later
applesauce
when you
or
have the
something.
time.
And the reason we're saying this too, some of those stats that I shared with you at home is that 40% of all of that 50 million tons that Canadians waste, 40% of that is household.
Yes.
Right? That is household waste.
Exactly.
So we can do our part very easily.
Exactly.
Right? What do you want to do? Do you want to start doing something here?
Yeah, I'm going to show you a little bit of what we're doing because, like I said, I always have my handy-dandy bag of bread that I accumulate.
Right.
Okay, this one is actually like a challah bread, a brioche, so I'm going to make French toast out of that.
Nice.
But this weekend, we celebrated my father's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday to your father. Nice.
And so I made some, and this was a little extra one, we made some bread pudding.
Okay.
And I put like caramel on the bottom,
good,
and then so we soak it with eggs. Whenever you have bread, you can revive it.
Right.
You can soak it with eggs, and it's very good. And then, of course, when I have too much bread and it's like the kind that I don't want or whatever, I put it in the oven. So what you do is you take your bread and you line them up, or whatever pieces you have. The smaller the bread, you want them all about equal size, because then some are going to get brown, some are not.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
And you put them in the oven like about 300 degrees, maybe 15 minutes. They have to be completely dry. If you pick one of these up, you'll see if you try to put your nail inside, it's just really hard.
Yeah.
You know those toasts that you buy?
Yeah. I remember like my grandparents used to buy them all the time. Yeah, the mini toast.
You could use them even like this.
For sure.
Right? I put a piece of cheese on top and it's good to go.
Yeah.
But what I do is I just take all my breadcrumbs, no matter like what kind of bread it is, and I stick it inside a food processor.
Okay.
And they're very easy. It has a blade attachment.
I know what
and
you're
it's very easy to do. And you can grind it as much as you want. It's going to make a little noise. And once it's gone like that, I stick them over here.
So you're just making homemade breadcrumbs instead of buying it from the store in a bag.
Exactly.
That's a great idea.
So if you actually have your bag in the freezer, you don't want to start to put them in the pan there. You want to first get them dry. So take them out overnight.
Okay.
And leave them to sort of dry up.
Yeah.
And then the next day you can start to
in the oven. 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you're going to do them in here, you have to make sure that they are completely cold. So I don't even touch them on that day.
Okay.
I will use a cookie. I will do a cookie, like a donut. What do you call it? With a mesh or something, so that it doesn't,
I know what you mean.
Doesn't get soggy on the other side.
To keep it up.
Exactly.
Right.
And then really the best thing is once it's completely cold, then you can crush them. Why? Because if they have a little bit of moisture in it, it won't be shelf stable and you won't be able to keep it out.
It'll be too much moisture in there, and then you'll have this big brick.
Exactly.
Right, instead of this nice crumble. Hey, we've got another segment with Miriam. You're probably looking and going, wow, there's all this stuff. You guys haven't touched on it. Don't worry. She's back for another segment. We'll be back with Miriam Pearl from Delicious Without Gluten right after this. Welcome back to the show. I'm telling you, this crew is giving me a hard time today. And I'm talking to you, Ken. I'm pointing right at his camera. We are back with Miriam Pearl from Delicious Without Gluten, and we're talking about, reusing things. So we talked about the breadcrumbs, and you were saying we could even freeze these if we had to?
So sometimes you can leave them outside. It'll last for like a year. If you don't have that moisture inside, it'll be really good. But some people really like to keep their breadcrumbs in the freezer.
Right.
So you can actually store them for like a long time in the freezer if your freezer is good. But when you take them out, make sure that you dry them out again. Because if you're going to keep them back out, they'll get moisture again.
Right.
So just a little note there.
Okay, I love it. What else have you got here? What do we want to tackle
from
here?
the bread, we also can make croutons, right?
Right.
So this is the breadcrumbs. What I did was I took some fresh bread that was like this in my little bag. Again, I would do the same thing. I cut them in cubes. You can cut them in any size as long as they're approximately the same way. And then you just sort of drizzle a little olive oil or whatever oil you want.
Wait till I introduce you to the olive oil you're going to see on the show later today from Mike George.
This one has
blow your
basil infusion.
Okay.
But it's just really fun, just to, like, whatever you like, and you just kind of, and you can use rosemary, garlic powder, you can put in some salt. And the fun thing about your own breadcrumbs is that you can actually season them. Let's say you have a problem and you don't want salt.
Right, absolutely.
You make your own breadcrumbs. You put them in the oven. It's like 15 to 30 minutes, depending on how large they are and how dry they are.
Right.
Again, they should be quite hard and not be able to put your your nail through.
Yeah, I mean, it's preference too, right? I know some people that do it, with a lot of crunch, and some people with just a little bit less crunch.
The more oil you have, and also you can get crunchy.
Right.
But if you're making them fresh, who cares?
Right.
I'm talking if you want to keep them for a long period of time.
Makes sense.
If they're a little bit wet, that's it. It'll get molded.
Okay.
We do the same thing with bagels. Okay, so I basically took the bagel and I put them in very thin slices.
Nice.
You drizzle some oil, again, whatever seasonings you want. Sometimes I like to do everything, spices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then you put them in the oven, and then they're like hard.
Now you've got
chips.
crisps.
And these are amazing. You can just, I keep them around all the time whenever someone wants like a hummus or whatever.
Yeah.
We don't have that many crackers in gluten-free world. They're all
really,
like with flax seeds and whatever.
So are these bagels that you make yourself?
Yeah, we make them at work. Our bread's from work. We do the breadcrumbs at work too, but I'm just, I want everybody who is coming home with stuff that, is not so great.
Yeah, we're talking about food waste here today. Yeah.
So you could do that with pita bread, you could do that with bagels, you could do that with everything.
Okay.
So now we're going to switch over to sweets.
All right.
So I brought here a little cake. That's the cake that I usually make in Passover. It's called that tiramisu-ish, remember?
So good, man.
So the bottom is brownies. Now, we have pieces, when you make brownie pan, and some people like the edges, some people don't.
Right.
Sometimes we cut away from them. But these brownie pieces, I keep in a bag. Okay? And I use them for crust.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So how do I revive them? I take them, I stick them on the bottom of a pan.
Okay.
I press them with some coffee syrup.
Nice.
And then it gets nice and moist, and you've got a really nice bottom.
Right, you're bringing the moisture back into it, right, to have that nice brownie texture.
All you have to do is press them down with that and pour the oil on them. Sorry, the coffee.
The coffee, yeah.
And this is just simple syrup. So it's like 1 cup of liquid to 1 cup of sugar. You boil it a little bit, and just until the sugar dissolves.
Nice.
And when I'm making coffee flavor, I just make a cup of coffee. Which is the liquid. Yeah. And then I can put the sugar and do
just
that.
boil it
and then
down
you keep
from
it in the fridge.
Okay.
And so you have the brownie bottom, and then these are from an old cake.
Right, because you're probably cutting away because you want to ice it really nicely instead of the bumps. Yeah.
You have a brunch, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have all this leftover stuff, and you're gonna put it in the garbage or in the recycling.
Right.
So save it. I end up just making layers with whipped cream, and then I use my coffee syrup in between and stick on some whipped cream on top. And here I took the brownie pieces and put them on the top.
Nice.
And then you have cookies.
Okay,
Everybody has
I wanted you to bring this up
cookies.
because this, I think, is one of the more difficult. The cake idea, I think a lot of people get, but the cookie idea, what have you done here? Not so much. Yeah.
I take these cookies, I stick them inside the food processor, and I get crumbs. Okay? So how do you make a pie crust? You basically put the crumbs inside here, and you add melted butter. That's
and you're ready to go.
And that's it. And then you put some melted butter in it, you mix it all up, and you press it on the sides, and you're finished. It's no bake.
Right, oh yeah, exactly. Okay.
So we have also here some cake pops. So when you have extra cake, this was a cake. I crumbled it up in my handy dandy.
Yeah.
And then after that, I added some of my buttercream.
Okay.
Over here.
Yeah.
I mix it up until it all forms into a dough. I have my dough over here. I take the dough and I make balls out of it.
And now you've got a cake pop.
And now I have the base for the cake pop.
Right.
And then after I have my balls, I dip this with a stick or not a stick. This is in chocolate. So these are
these
the
ones
cake.
you've done.
Yes.
So that is the cake. Wow.
Yes, that's cake inside. And so you can make cake pops. Like a lot of caterers, they do rum balls from the ends of cakes and stuff like
absolutely.
that. It's the same concept. And the idea is to make sure that you have as many like uses for whatever you have.
Right.
We do a bûche Noël, which is a Christmas log.
Oh, I love
and
Christmas log.
We always cut off the ends to make them look nice, so you see the nice round
Right.
swirl.
Yeah.
And I collect them, and then I make like a trifle, and I
that's a
layer
great
them
idea.
with some strawberries or raspberries
Yeah.
and whipping cream.
That you've again been in your
Exactly.
freezer, and you just take them out a couple hours before you're ready to go. I just want to go back to the breadcrumbs quickly too.
so-
Look what you did with the breadcrumbs up here, right? Are these like
these
chicken
are the-
strips?
Yeah, these are schnitzel, we call them.
Oh, schnitzels.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
And you could do that with, fish. You could do that with chicken. You could do that with veal, whatever you have.
Right.
And I have I have the recipe for tiramisu. I have the recipe for the breadcrumbs and the crouton. I have everything, even the cake pops, on my website.
Okay.
But this over here as well, you'll see. Some people don't season their breadcrumbs well. So I gave this recipe using steak spice, cumin, granulated garlic, onion powder, oregano, thyme. It's amazing.
DeliciousWithout.com to find these recipes and much more. We'll be back with more Daytime right after this.